of
Yeah.
questions about the delays, and I've been hounding Tom Adams because he's been off doing other things on his other interests. Tom has been an integral part of trying to get uh, the small homes built here in Mason County for the last 12 years. I know I was at the Port Commission meetings when he was trying to do it up in the port. Um, but what I am interested in
Mhm.
is a couple of things. Now, uh, on the facility itself, will there be resources? Now, you can bring this back up in the regular meeting if you answer it with an affirmative. Will there be resources like AANA, psychological reviews, on site available to our veterans
Mhm.
in a clubhouse or in a unused extra how waiting uh, waiting house that hasn't been
Mhm.
occupied yet for meetings, um, to where they don't have to travel downtown, where they don't
Yeah.
have to be roaming the streets for services. Will
Sure.
we be able to bring the services to them on a weekly basis to where they don't have to go out and seek out Peter Lazarenko as the veteran service officer and down at the Veterans Hall? Uh,
Mhm.
having, are we going to bring services to them?
Yes, that's a great question. So we will have a large community center. So it's about a 2,500 square foot building, which is where we'll have 2 full-time staff there. So that's where their offices will be. There'll also be a large kitchen there, dining/living area, but then there'll also be a large like multi-purpose room. And so we are wanting to provide services. So we'll have intensive case management. That'll be through our organization, but we'll also work and wanting to work with other providers in the community so that we can provide on-site stuff. It's also recovery housing, so it is a clean and sober environment. So we would love to be able to have AA and NA meetings for folks, as well as we're working with a mental health agency to provide one-on-one and group therapy on-site as well for folks. So we're really trying to provide different resources, whatever folks are needing. And if we as an organization don't provide that, then we will look to the outside community to see if we can either help folks get there with transportation or provide that on site. Yeah.
Okay. Second question of 4. Okay. Second
Okay.
question. Has there been an initial contact with DAV Transportation as a pickup and drop-off location for the VA hospital trips for their services, so that the veterans there will be able to get their services, get their transportation services, and return to their homes?
I haven't specifically talked with, hi Eric, with DAV. I've been talking with the VFW, and I think I always get them confused, either AMVETS or American Legion, but I do know that there are different carpool things available for folks specifically to get to the VA hospital. But I don't have a specific contact with the DAV. Do you have a contact, or I can find one? But yeah, we're wanting to make sure that they have transportation to get out to the VA hospital when they need
As
to, for
long as
sure.
as long as they have a 1-week window on their doctor's appointments, the
Hmm.
DA van from American Lake in Tacoma will come and get them and bring them back after their scheduled appointments. Um, so they have to have an appointment between 9:30 in the morning and 1:30 in the afternoon to be able to be picked up in Shelton and dropped back off within the window of opportunity for the veterans DAV van.
And you said the DAV van is based in Tacoma?
American Lake, yes,
Oh, at American Lake, yeah.
American Lake VA Hospital, yes.
Yeah.
And if they have a Seattle appointment, they can actually get a ride. If it's early enough in the day, they can get, like, there's a 1-hour window for a Seattle hospital appointment where they can catch the van from Shelton to American Lake in Tacoma, then catch the bus, VA bus, from the hospital in Tacoma to Seattle, do their appointment, and then return the same way and still be able to get home.
Sounds like
So,
you know your stuff.
well, I've been a serviced veteran for many years, and so I do know schedules, availability. And COVID's changed things a little bit, but they're always willing to work with the veterans.
Yeah.
So I would be happy to always provide information. You can actually tell the people that are going to come into the meeting that there will be DAV transportation availability there
Mhm.
on site to American Lake Hospital. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. I don't know too much about the ins and outs of that kind of stuff because that's something, that our case manager will be doing, definitely with the resources and navigating all that stuff. But that's really good to know. I appreciate that.
Okay. The other thing, the third question is, what was the train? I was told that you guys are looking at kind of like a garage or pole building duplex on each one instead of going with the small storage shed type of a building. Is that right?
Yeah, so during the design process, we found that it's much less expensive if we were able to we're doing fourplexes, and I'm sorry, my dog is squeaking his toy. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I have an earpiece in, but basically it was less expensive if they're still going to be tiny homes. So each person will still have their own home, but they'll be in fourplexes. So they'll be together. And what that did, it really shrunk our site plan. So we weren't using as much space, made it closer to the community center as well too, as the utilities are closer together. So the plumbing and all that stuff, it was less expensive for that. But they still have their own tiny homes. And I'm gonna grab sorry, we hopped on real quick. I'm gonna grab my notebook real quick, and I will be right back, I promise.
That's right.
These are good questions. I appreciate them.
Not a problem.
Yeah, and I'll do like once we have folks on here, when we get closer to 5:30, I'll have a quick little presentation with, we have mock-ups of the design of what the fourplexes look like, as well as the community center and the overall site plan and things like that.
I have my fourth question.
Yeah.
In running the facility, the veterans have a ability, whether they're disabled or in rehab or in need of psychological assistance, they still have the ability to program. Are you going to allow them, not require them, but allow them to have a part or a hand in doing generalized maintenance on the facility, like mowing and
Hmm.
gardening and cleanup and beautification and everything that means a little bit of something in the world
Hmm.
that they live in, because that was part of what they had when they were in the military. It means
Absolutely.
to them, it means something to have ownership in
Yeah.
what their surroundings.
I
And so,
agree. Yeah. Yeah, I
and
agree 100%. We are sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we are doing that. So we do have we run Coyote Village in Olympia, and we kind of are basing it off of that model as what we do as well. So yeah, we really try to not hire out for things, because like custodial work and landscaping, mowing lawns, things like that, because a lot of the residents like to do that. And so we do put a lot of that responsibility back on them. They have to make sure that, because they'll each get like a little parcel of, lawn or garden or whatever they want to do, their own little yards, and they have to make sure that they're keeping that up with maintenance and whatnot. And then, yeah, there are little things here and there like maintenance that we'll ask folks to do. I'm sure that people are wanting to step up and do things like that. I'm trying to think of what else. Mowing the lawn is a huge one. We'll also have a community garden, so people will be able to plant things and harvest them and pick them and then cook them in the community kitchen, things like that. And then also kind of custodial tasks as well too. So the community center, that is their building. And so we asked them to, take ownership of that and to help clean up, because we have our kitchen there, TV room, living room area. So they're responsible for the upkeep of that area as well. So yeah, we really try to have it be their place that they're living in.
I'm going to invite, while you have your meeting, there'll be another person listening in. He's another veteran. He might interject at some point. He might be quiet the whole time, but he was a corpsman and a chaplain, and so in the Marine Corps and the Navy. So
Oh, wonderful.
he just sat down getting ready to relax and have dinner. It was a nightly thing. So
Yeah.
but
Well, thank you both.
his name is Dave.
Okay.
So, but
He'll be joining us.
Yeah, and so you'll see me, or I might even turn my video off. But no, I'm here listening. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your service. I appreciate all your questions.
That's not a problem, and my main focus is I want to make sure that the veterans that are there feel like they have a purpose.
Absolutely.
If they feel like they have a purpose, they won't feel like they have a need to go out and float around the community and I don't want to say get in trouble, but sometimes
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
Sometimes trouble finds people that have no purpose.
Yeah.
So if they have a purpose, if they have a direction, if they have the ability to focus their lives and head in the right direction, it means everything to them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It'll help to have a brotherhood and a sisterhood there too.
Yeah, and if you're allowing one pet, correct?
We're allowing, service and support animals.
Okay, we do have resources in the community for those in need that need assistance with pet food and veterinary supplies and things like that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, you're full of lots of resources and information. I appreciate it.
That was George.
You'll find a couple people. You'll find a couple people that'll be popping up online, like Kathy, myself, a few other people that are just chock full of knowledge.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because we don't know everything, and Mason County is new to us too. So this is kind of what this meeting is all about: is networking and learning. So thank you. And then April, sorry I cut you off. April's on our board of directors, so for our organization.
And I'm a veteran as well. Army, go Army.
Well, we'll let you go on that, April. Okay. We'll let it slide.
What service were you in?
I was in the Navy and submarines, and in the surface fleet, and as an instructor.
My dad was Navy. My husband was Air Force. My cousin Marines, and my grandpa, who's still with us at 96, was Army Air Corps. So, family of veterans.
God bless them.
I know.
Yeah, I wish I was still active. I'd still be teaching.
Well, maybe you can volunteer and teach something to these young whippersnappers that we got coming in.
I might consider donating a little bit of my time, depending on my health. I have surgeries coming up for gastric bypass. Santa's got to become a slim Santa for a while.
Nice.
But I would consider it.
Yeah, we are always looking, and we'll be looking for volunteers to come help, if that's even just running a meeting or there with whatever, if you have any hobbies or skills that you want to share, or just being a resource for folks too.
If there's a formatted syllabus for instruction, or you need one developed, I can do that.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is JC Osterberg. I'm the Executive Director for Coyote Communities. I see some faces, familiar faces, and some new ones, so that's great. I think we're just going to wait a minute or two to have other folks jump on, but happy to have you all here. Cheryl, I'm glad that you were able to get in contact with me and get on this meeting.
I was too, JC. Been trying to, and I want to know what Quixote Villages is up to, and so it'll be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Same here.
Still got some people popping up, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just give it maybe another minute.
It's still better than our open houses we had in person.
Yeah, this is way more people. We were averaging like 2 people pre-COVID, so this is great. Okay. All right, what do you think? Should I get started and people can just hop on? Yeah, okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Like I said earlier, my name's JC Osterberg. I'm the executive director for the nonprofit Coyote Communities, and we just wanted to put this on as an open house because I think it's been a while since we've kind of done some larger community engagement, and just wanted to let people know, where we're at, what's going on, and then open it up to questions. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen. I kind of put up a short little PowerPoint with some photos and whatnot of the village. Let's see if I can get this guy. Okay, can you all see that? Like a thumbs up, or I only see 4 people. Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Great. So just a brief overview. Like I said, we're Coyote Communities. We currently own and operate a tiny house village in Olympia, just about 20, 25 minutes away from Shelton for homeless folks. And it's a tiny house village for 30 people, and it's just been really successful. So much so that we received funding to build 2 more villages, one that's up in Pierce County in Ording, and then another one here in Shelton, specifically for homeless veterans. And so I just wanted to show you all kind of the site and location of where it's at. I got to move my guy over because I'm in the way of myself. So we are, oh, excuse me, sorry. So we're going to be our official address. We got to get an address created because it's a site that's not developed yet. Is actually on North 13th Street. We have a lease with the city of Shelton. It's the city's property, so they'll be our landlords, and they have been amazing through this whole process. So we're really excited about the location. It's on a main bus line. It's near the community college as well as the hospital. So it's near services, and it's just a nice location. And so the photo on the left is our site plan, and I can show another one coming up, I think, on here that's a little bit bigger. We are going to be housing 30 homeless veterans that are living in Mason County. And we initially were just going to kind of replicate Coyote Village in Olympia and just have 30 tiny homes. But through the design process, we really found, and we built Coyote about 7 years ago. During the design process, we found that it was actually a lot more less expensive if we ended up doing this kind of fourplex idea that we have, and that's what this site plan is showing. So folks will still have their own home and still have their own independence and privacy and whatnot, but they'll be in kind of little quadrants, so they'll be in groups of 4. And what that did was it was less expensive because it made our site plan a little bit smaller. It moved houses closer to our large community building that we'll have, and I'll show some photos of that too. And then it also it was less expensive because the utilities were able to get all together. So we were really having that in mind when we were looking at our budget. And we have some kind of some enhancements from our regular village in Coyote, where we tripled our ADA units. So for folks who have mobile disabilities, we only have 2 in Olympia, and we found, for the population that we're working with, that really was not enough. So we're tripling that. Also, all the homes are going to be on the ground level, so there's no stairs. And a huge thing that we're really excited about is that all these units are going to have showers in them, which in Coyote they do not. So this is going to be a big deal. Our residents in Olympia are a little jealous, but we're really excited for that. And so just a quick rundown, and we can get into more detailed stuff with questions, of course, too. These are some residents in Olympia. What we offer. So like I said, we're going to be housing 30 homeless folks, and then they'll have their own home, but then there'll also be a large community center. And so that will have a large double kitchen in it, laundry facilities for folks, a multi-purpose room / like TV room, or if we ever have classes or, AA or NA meetings, things like that, we have a large room that we're able to do that in. And then also staff offices. So we will have full-time staff that are there. Their offices will be in the community building, and we'll have a full-time case manager. They will provide intensive case management, and work one-on-one with folks with really whatever they're needing. So if they're, when they're coming in, if they need help applying for benefits or food stamps, or they're needing to make sure that their veteran status is up to date and that they have their VA health care, if they need help with transportation, wanting to go back to school, education, really full spectrum, whatever folks are needing, we really try to provide those resources and services. And if we don't have it, then we look to the outer community to try to plug folks into the different resources. We'll also be helping with transportation, helping folks get around. There is a main bus line, but just in case, sometimes you need a ride somewhere. And then we're also working with a third party, a mental health agency, which we just started in Olympia, which has been a huge game changer for folks, where we'll be able to provide on-site individual therapy as well as group therapy for folks. And then recovery support. So this is recovery housing. So we do strive to have a clean and sober living environment for folks. Kind of the biggest factor or reason that some folks may relapse is the environment that they're in. So we really try to provide that supportive environment for folks who are who may be recovering from addiction, and then just peer support in general. So this is communal living, and so folks really get to know each other and create really strong bonds with one another and help each other out. And we find that that's really a huge part of who we are, is the community aspect. And these are just some photos of Coyote Village. I don't know if folks have been out there or not, but I'll go from the top left clockwise. The first photo is just of our community center, and so it's going to be pretty similar in Shelton. It's about 2,500 square feet. And to the right is our large double kitchen. So they will not have kitchens in their units, but they will have them in this large community center. And excuse me, I'm sorry, my dogs. I have an earpiece in. I'm not sure if you can hear it or not. But the double kitchen, this is their space. They have access to it 24/7. If they want to cook food at 3 a.m, they can do that. So that's there for them. And then just a large dining room / lounge area. And then this last photo on the bottom right is actually a photo of someone's home in Olympia. So basically it is a tiny home. It's basically a bedroom. And then in the back where that butterfly decal is, that's a bathroom in the back. And I wanted to go, and we can go more into depth about the timeline and where we're at if people have questions. But right now where we're at, we have our full team. We have our architect, our engineer, our developer, our general contractor, and our subcontractors. Right now what we're doing is we're doing our final design. Our subcontractor, whose name is, they're Indie Dwell, they specialize in tiny homes. They're doing the final pieces of the design and are getting ready to apply for permits, for building permits. So we are really close. So very excited about that. And this is kind of a mock-up of some of the site plan that I already showed, but of what the fourplexes are going to look like. So that's pretty exciting to have. It's interesting to see what the fourplex design is going to do, because we've never done that before. So we're really excited about that. And I can definitely share this PowerPoint, or I also have, I will get off of this screen real quick and show you all. Can you see the screen, or do I have to share? Oh, it says it's paused. Sorry. Let me share it again. Every time I do a new screen, it wants to see something else. Okay, you can see this new screen? Okay, awesome. So this is kind of just like a design package, and I'm happy to send this out to anyone if you're interested. I can leave my contact information. It's just executive@coyotecommunities.org. I'm happy to send this out to folks. It's pretty exciting what we've got. So these are mock-ups of the fourplexes, and then let me scroll down. This is a more in-depth site plan of what everything's gonna look like. So coming off the parking lot, we have a pretty large parking lot. We decided to do that just because there's not really any off-site parking. So plenty of parking spaces for folks, our community center, and then the homes. And then inside community kind of outdoor area / garden and whatnot that folks want. We'll see what folks want to do with that once they move in. And then this might not be as exciting for folks, but this is kind of what the floor plan looks like. And again, I can send this to people if they're interested. We've really tried to make the most of the space since it's pretty small. As you can see, it says the ADA units are 159 square feet and the regular units are 140. So really, we took a long time trying to figure out how to use the space best for folks so that they can utilize it best way possible. And then this is just kind of the design of the community center. Or no, that's the duplexes, I'm sorry. These are the duplexes or fourplexes. And then this is the site plan or the floor plan of the community building. So again, not sure if people are excited about that or not, but I can totally send it out. It's going to be very similar to Coyote Village, where I'll have staff offices, multi-purpose room, kitchen, laundry facilities, hangout area, and some bathrooms, I think. Oh, that's just the outside of it. Nothing too fancy. But that's really, I can pull this up. I'm pretty sure that is, oh, excuse me. I think I got back to that. That's pretty much the end of my presentation, though, just wanting you all to know where we're at and what the homes are going to look like and the site plan. And I will stop screen sharing so we can all see each other. There we go. So yeah, I'm sorry if I did that really fast, but like I said, I'm very happy to send it out to folks if they're interested in seeing that design package. And yeah, I just want to open it up to any questions, concerns, comments that folks might have. I will say that we do have 2 board members with us. So April Pooler is a board member of ours, lives in Mason County, is a veteran. And then where do you go? Oh, Joe Shoren, he is the president of the board. So they are here. And just, yeah, again, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So I am here to answer whatever questions you may have. And I guess we can just go with like, raise your hand or but Dale, were you going to say something?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I have my other veteran friend here with me, Dave, and he has a question that he wanted to have answered. He said, during the construction process, he has construction knowledge and abilities. He wanted to know if he can assist in construction.
Ooh, great question. So it kind of honestly gets a little fuzzy and confusing because this is publicly funded. So the majority of our funding is through the Department of Commerce and Mason County, who funded this. And so they get kind of weird with, commerce mostly, about how people can volunteer, because technically we're supposed to be paying everyone prevailing wage, but we've gotten creative on how folks can help with that kind of thing. And so I would definitely love to be in contact with your person. I'm sorry, did you say his name's Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If they want to reach out to me, we can try to figure something out. We would love to be able to have volunteers work on this. For instance, in Ording, we're actually under construction right now in our village in Pierce County, and we have a lot of folks who are helping us with painting. So people are helping with that, as well as some light maintenance stuff. So I'm sure we would love this to be a community village. And so the more, the merrier, for sure. So we'd love to have volunteers. It just gets tricky sometimes, but we can figure some stuff out. Julie, hi.
Hi, thanks for doing this. Can you talk a little bit about the operating budget year over year? What's your source of funding? How does that work? And what's the total budget that we're talking?
Yeah. So right now we are currently working on secured operating funding. The way that our other two villages are mainly operating funding is through the Housing Authority, and so with project-based vouchers, which works really similar to a Section 8 voucher. Our residents pay rent, so they pay 30% of their income in rent, and most of the folks that will be living with us have very low income. And so for some people that may be $250, some people it may be $100, and some people it may be $0. And so that amount really is not enough to operate a nonprofit, of course. So those vouchers help subsidize. So the rent is based out at $570. No resident really pays that. The Housing Authority pays the extra. And so that's something that we're working with, trying to secure those vouchers. And that's with the Bremerton Housing Authority. They're the ones that actually oversee all of Mason County. And so that's something that we're working on. We don't have those secured with them, but it's something that I'm definitely fighting for. And then other terms, well, let me back up. The overall budget right now is $278,000 annually. And so a lot of that is for utilities. We pay all utilities for folks, and I'm happy to send the budget out too as well. But most of it is for salaries for our staff, and our staff are just integral for the success that we have with folks. A lot of folks that are living with us do need supportive staff. So that's mostly a lot of where that comes from, but also maintenance and upkeep and things like that. So there's rent and there's vouchers. We also, there are different governmental grants from the state and local level that are specific for homeless housing. There's like document recording fees, things that are set aside for homeless housing programs that we'll be applying for every year. Those are not certain, of course, because those are things we'll have to apply for year by year. Some of them are every 2 years, but that's what we currently are doing in Olympia as well as in Ording. And then we have also been approved for this new Medicaid waiver, where basically we're able to charge Medicaid for the supportive housing services that we provide for residents. If they have the specific Medicaid, it gets kind of tricky, but anyways, we're able to bill for that, for the services that we're providing. So we're still looking into that, because that's a newer thing that we're doing. But then on top of that, other like foundation, private foundation grants like that, and then also donations from the community. April?
I wanted to add to that too, because a lot of the times the veterans that we're dealing with, if they're homeless or have PTSD, a lot of them don't realize all the benefits they have. They don't know about the fact that they qualify for disability, and that's more income as well right there. So once we have them, and we're actually working on that to date right now, we help them when we can and wherever we can, especially those who are interested in the tiny homes, to get them whatever benefits they are entitled to. And that includes disability. If you're already PTSD, if you're already homeless, more than likely you qualify for anywhere from 30 to 50% VA disability. So that already is a good source of income. So we're helping a lot of these veterans get the disability that they're entitled to, and therefore that's more income that they'll have, which will help with operating costs as well.
Any other question? Does that answer your question, Julie? Sorry.
Partially, and I don't mean to get too specific, but I'm trying to get an idea of what the community commitment is going to be on an ongoing basis to keep this project sustainable as a resource for homeless veterans. So I don't know if this might be better for offline, but are you trying to fundraise for ongoing operating expenses now? Do those vouchers take care of it? What is the amount of vouchers? Is this going to be a struggle, going into next year?
Yeah, and we definitely can talk offline about like specifics, but just like in Olympia and Ording and a lot of other homeless housing programs, we do rely on some donations from the community for sure. In Olympia, we have about annually about $45,000 that we raise in private donations. And so it'll probably be something similar to that. But I have been told multiple times that Shelton is not Olympia. So definitely keeping that in mind as well too. And so we we do have a contracted grant writer who helps looking for different foundation grants and things like that. But that is the reality of homeless housing programs, is that every year that's part of my job, is every day is looking for fundraising and funding, because the vouchers alone do not run it at all. And you'll find that at any homeless housing program. It is going to be something around $45,000 to $50,000 that we'll be looking to fill privately.
But that doesn't count the vouchers.
That does not count the vouchers, no. And we're still working out how many we could get as well too, and things like that. So some of that is still up in the air that we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Hi, Andy?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm using my wife's little homeschool setup. So if it's working, great. But I had a question that came up. Actually, a couple of questions came up as you're talking through that. One of the main concerns about one of a concern I heard a lot throughout Shelton about this and where it's located is its proximity to schools and senior housing and those kinds of things. And we've been assured all along that this is going to be, in fact, a drug and alcohol free site, and also no sex offenders in the project as well.
Yeah.
And so when I'm hearing discussions about NA and AA meetings, I don't have any experience with any of this, so excuse my ignorance with this, but that kind of sends a concern up for me. It's like, we're not, we might have people in active recovery, and active recovery then always has the risk of relapse, and we can educate and we can do all those kinds of things. But that is really sending red flags off in my head as a problem.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So and you are spot on. Relapse is a part of recovery, and we will have some folks who are struggling with their addiction, and we work with them one-on-one to help them. We do drug test folks, so folks do have to pass a drug test in order to live with us, and then it is kind of baked into our lease that folks aren't supposed to be using on site. But we also, use a lot of grace within our organization. And if someone is struggling, the last thing we want to do is kick them out of their housing. And so we do work with folks one-on-one if they're struggling with whatever their substance use disorder is, along with AA and NA meetings. Those are just extra kind of types of support for folks. I can use Olympia as an example, since we've been up and running for 7 years now, and we have had folks who are struggling, and that is something that we work with people. We do get people into treatment, if that's inpatient, outpatient, or going to meetings, or if they're wanting us to hold them accountable by drug testing them and things like that. So we do work with folks, and there is case management that is involved. We know where folks are. We know, we check on folks. and it really is a community. So if something's going on, we're going to know about it. And we will work with people, but if it becomes very apparent that someone is not ready or wanting to be clean and sober, and their behavior, it's really about the behavior, really, right? So if their behavior is affecting the community, then we do have to ask folks to leave after a amount of time. But we do what we can to try to find them a safe place for them to go. And I know there are fears around, we're near Christmas Village, and schools and things like that. We haven't had any, outside, violence or anything like that, or there, it's not like there's like drug dealing to the neighborhood or anything like that. And I can definitely talk with you more one-on-one too about that issue, because I know that's a huge fear for people, definitely. But we do try to work with folks one-on-one. And I will say, there are folks with active addiction right now in the community who are sleeping on the streets and who are in the bushes or by the river. And we're trying to provide those folks with housing and stability and case management and trying to have them stabilized. So I don't know if that helps you at all, but I can definitely talk with you one-on-one if to ease your mind, but I understand that fear. Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. Joe? Sorry, we cut you off last time. Hi.
No problem. Hey, so I vividly remember a council meeting when we were ratifying the lease agreement with you all, and there was a packed house of supporters there, and it's very impressive what you guys brought along to justify the project, and it was very moving on that front. One of the key pieces of this conversation, and I guess maybe where my frustration lies with a little bit of this, is we were sunk into this tiny houses, 30 individual, they need their own secure, safe space with a door and a lock. And now it's morphing into these quadplex container homes, and these things are changing. It's not really clear what your long-term operational funding strategy may look like. Right now, it sounds like there's still fundraising going on, but you're excited to break ground. As the landlord, I've got concerns, and I need to be able to communicate with constituents on what's going on with this project. Why is this changing? What has changed from the original design, the original thought process that is similar to, you keep advertising Coyote communities in Olympia or Tumwater, excuse me. That's not what's actually what things are going to look like here in Shelton. So what can I bring back to the community and say, hey, this is what this project is actually going to look like this time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I totally get that. The design did change a little bit. All we did change, though, is it is now fourplexes, so it's not going to be containers. They're going to be prefab units, and they're going to be tiny homes. And to be completely honest, we were not able to get under budget with just a tiny home after looking at the design. And so that was a huge part of moving to the fourplex, to be able to get under budget. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I guess I want to make sure, though, that it's clear the reason why the change happened, and then so the curveball, right? So city staff have a method and a plan. We were essentially expecting 30 individual tiny homes on this plat of land, and now that's sort of changing. Experiences. I got your hand, April. I got you over there. Raise your hand. But so it's kind of changing a little bit. I want to make sure that city staff and others understand where you guys are going, so we're not at the 5-yard line when you're ready to pull the trigger to do this, and then there's some technicality, right? So then we get drugged through the ringer on permitting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because there was a huge push motivation related to timeline with funding expiring and things like that we were sort of, I'll be honest, feel like artificially pushed into this situation, as opposed to what's actually going to come to fruition at the end of the day. So I just want to make sure that it's completely transparent and black and white, so I can then communicate with folks as to what exactly is happening at the site.
Yeah, absolutely. April, did you want to say something?
Can I, just one sec. This is Megan Feast also, just to add on. I'm also a fellow city council person with Joe, and I was actually going to ask you to bring back the timeline slide as well, because I have concerns in line with what Joe's talking about. You know, I'd like to really understand where we're at now. What is it going to take to get us to that 5-yard line? And, you know, get a little bit deeper into this conversation about your expectations for the community.
Well,
Sure. Oh, go ahead, April. Sorry.
Just real quick, the quads. So yes, it was definitely, it helped with, you know, monetary, of course, but I thought it was better to have them a little closer. It wasn't as far to walk to the community hall, but also my thought was, as a veteran, and I know you are too, Joe, kind of like a squad, if you will. I felt like personally, and we talked to other veterans, that it made sense, kind of like you kind of, you know, like a squad leader with the 4, that you'd kind of keep accountability of each other, kind of help each other out like a team. So it just kind of made sense at that point. And honestly, from a look, if you will, I thought the difference between it looking like a home versus, with all due respect, little sheds, that's kind of what it looked like to me. So I think appearance, it was a win-win. It'll look better. I think with the squad kind of mentality with the veterans, and then obviously cost and shorter distance. So it really is it's such a much better plan. It wasn't like we were forced to do it, but it kind of all came together, and I think it's a great plan personally.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna debate what model is better. I'm just kind of going back to that day when we were when we heard all the testimony from the various supporters of the project. There was a significant there was a significant investment in keeping these as individual units, and this was what the homeless the homeless community wanted, which is why we were going down this path. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about single room occupancy ordinances and code and things like that. At the end of the day, remembering this would be essentially the first tiny house project in the city of Shelton. I know many of us from a planning perspective were expecting to have to sort of learn how to permit and plan a planned unit development around the tiny house footprint. And, we did have a little bit of debate back and forth between the two organizations as to why not an apartment complex? Why not a multifamily home? Those are essentially maybe simpler things to build and develop and permit and bring into the city, into the fold of all the other development that's going on in the city. The concern is that it kind of has changed. I understand budget, always, right? Budget will prevail at the end of the day. But, again, these talking points where people feel potentially burned, it's like, hey, you told us we needed to do these individual tiny houses because this is what we wanted. The community got behind you and supported that. And then April says, I think it should be a four unit quadplex kind of thing. And it's just, how do I communicate this effectively with folks? How do we roll back and say, hey, this is what the scope of the project looks like? And frankly, I guess I got to put that back to you guys to help me explain. So that's where I'm kind of sitting at today. So whatever you can kind of share with us on that front would be helpful.
Yeah, and I've got a question that, and if FHLB applications were made, like in May 9th.
Oh, I don't know if that's mine or I can't hear.
That darn internet connection.
2020.
Oh.
So, we've got a big gap there in communication. So we'd like to understand.
I'm sorry, Megan, I could not really hear much of what you were saying. Kathy, were you going to add on to that, or did you have something different?
Well, I just wanted to get something clarified, and I'm sure April has probably told me this, but I forgot. The original plans were the individual little tiny homes. And the reason you were going to be going with that because instead of like an apartment building or whatever, that the fact that the veterans didn't want walls, didn't want other people on the other side of the walls. So now we're going with the fourplex. there's going to be, I think it's a great idea, but I'm just wondering how we got from these guys can only handle a little house without anybody on each side of them. Now there's 4.
Mhm.
We talked to a bunch of veterans actually about this. And so originally Coyote was not a bunch of veterans. They were a bunch of, right? There's some veterans, I'm sure. But, as things progressed, we did talk to a lot of veterans at the stand down last year, the homeless veterans, and what they thought about it. And they really liked the idea of having like a small family. There's 30, but now you got the 4 people that you can get closer to, that you kind of have like a mini family, a squad, whatever you want to call it. And so, and personally, with some of the PTSD, and if anybody had night problems, I think it would be good to know when your buddy needs some help. So it just kind of went that way.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm just wondering why we are, why we couldn't go with that plan to begin with. We had to have individual ones because they don't like anybody on the other side of them. And
we didn't know, I guess, because it worked so well for Coyote. But this is the veterans talking now.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally get it. And yeah, the tiny house village, that's what we've done. That's all we really know. And so I think personally, ideally, it would be ideal to be able to have their own home and not sharing a wall with folks. And really it did come down to the budget, unfortunately, of having to do that. I'm sorry, Andy, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. So the veterans and I mean, I'm all for taking care of people. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? We got to help take care of people. The ultimate question that I guess I've had 2 ultimate questions now. 1, the proximity, and 2, the ultimate question. The ultimate question is there a market for this with Mason County homeless veterans? And that's my biggest question. JC, do you know at this point how many homeless veterans are in Mason County?
Yeah, currently there are 22 homeless veterans in coordinated entry, which is the coordinated effort of the county to help folks who are experiencing homelessness. So I did get that number just the other day from Crossroads, for the folks that do it. So right now, that's how many people pretty much are counted, but we do know there's lots of folks up in North. So this is all for Mason County too. So there's folks up, not just Shelton residents. So there will be, folks up in North Mason that would be able to live with us as well too.
Okay, because I too talked to Crossroads, and that's the same number that she gave me, and in that big cloud of support that Joe was talking about earlier, I think I may have been the sole person there that was not completely in love with the project. And so,
sure.
and it was based on the market, right? And so, I mean, I did a lot of research, and I talked with a lot of folks, and some statistics that I learned through the process were that there were, through the VA's own numbers, it was their number one unmet need for homeless veterans in the country is housing for registered sex offenders, because registered sex offenders make up about 75% of the homeless population, of the VA homeless population. And that was straight out of VA's own data.
I don't
I can go bring that data back at some point if you like. I'm happy to show it to you. The number 2 concern was housing for substance abusers, right? And so at that point, and this was a couple of years ago, at that point, the number that we thought of homeless people, because we didn't have a good one, homeless veterans, was we thought it was 30, and 75% being potentially registered sex offenders, or another huge portion being substance abusers. That number at 30 was way too high. And I was giving the benefit of the doubt and saying, let's say that there's some folks out there that we don't know about because they haven't come in to be counted or anything like that. So let's say that we have 15 residents of Mason County that qualify to live in Coyote Village based on your own guidelines. So if 15 of those are Mason County folks, what do we do with the other 15?
Mm-hmm.
right? Do we amend it so it's not just veterans? Well, I don't think the lease allows for that. Or do we have to go outside the county and bring people in to the Shelton Veterans Village? Or do we have to do that, which is going to then tax the other resources that we have for homeless folks and things in town? And so I have a big concern, I've not been able to get off of it. And my biggest concern is that, number one, we don't have a market for it. And number two, we're asking the city to spend a lot of money in land value, in moving material so that we can clear the site and make that happen and encumber another property. You know, we're asking the city to invest a lot of money to basically get a net zero gain on the homeless issue within our own community. And that's a big concern of mine.
Okay. Yeah. I will say I don't know that data about sex offenders. I have not heard that before. But you had pointed out, we do not house folks who are lifetime sex offenders. It is, I will say it is in our lease that if once we house all the homeless veterans in Mason County, which would be great to be at like a net zero or a functional zero, then it is possible to house homeless veterans from neighboring counties. That is in our lease. So it is possible that folks from Kitsap or possibly Thurston would be moving into the Shelton Veterans Village. April.
But if they're homeless anyways, it's not like they have a permanent residence anyways. So I know that one thing I would say that if we were full and then, we move them out eventually, and then we had someone from Kitsap coming, it's not like they don't come with some benefits anyways. Again, we will work with them because if they're homeless, they obviously have a little PTSD or something. So they will qualify for benefits. So it would actually bring some money. I assume it'd be more money into the area, and they have their health care already covered. So it's not like they're gonna, be that much of a burden. So, and again, I want to share just a real quick thing about the whole with the drug, that's kind of a thing. When I fractured my spine in the military, the VA gave me 90 Vicodin a month. Imagine if I took 90 Vicodin a month, then it went down to 60 a month. Imagine if I did that. So see, this is the problem. A lot of times years ago, the veterans while you're in service, or the veterans were given a lot of narcotics that they probably shouldn't have. Now, I rarely took them, I'm glad, but a lot of people did. So it's not like cut and dry, just someone who's a druggie. It's very possible that the government created some of these problems. So I definitely, I just want everyone to know that story, that unfortunately they weren't always given the best meds and the best opportunities. And so now we're trying to help them out.
I can appreciate that, but ultimately we're a quarter of a mile from 3 schools.
Yeah, and I personally, my big thing is at least now you know where they are instead of out in the woods, and that's a big thing. But I totally get it. I can only appreciate that a little bit.
Eric, I'm sorry, you've been holding your hand up for forever.
I can't tell if you can see me or not.
Yeah, sorry.
I have some of the same concerns that Councilmember Schmidt had, and on the timeline. We were rushed through this, and we were told this was a self-sustaining project, which it isn't. It was $3 million was enough to build it, which it isn't. And now the concern is you were supposed to break ground a year ago in January, and that hasn't happened. What's the problem with this project? Why isn't this project done? And how are you going to keep it going if you don't get these vouchers?
Yeah, so the voucher one I'll hit first. So that is something that we're looking ongoing for because the vouchers are pretty key in running the organization. We haven't run without vouchers before. So that's something that we're doing ongoing research for, to find other pots of funding specifically for veterans services. So that is an ongoing thing that we are looking at as an organization, and take that very seriously for sure, because of course we don't want to break ground on something if we are not able to afford it in the future, not just year one, but throughout. So that is something that we are currently prioritizing right now. And then your other question, yeah, it does it. And I will say there was different leadership before me. And so I do apologize about the self-sufficiency. No homeless housing program that I know of is self-sufficient. And so I do apologize that that was kind of marketed as a message to you that as you can see, is not the case. So I do apologize about that. And yeah, it does take a very long time, unfortunately, to build affordable housing. I know a lot of people, there's different tiny house villages that are popping up kind of all over the country. And we have one in Olympia that popped up like within a month. And that's just because it's different from ours. It's emergency shelter. And so, churches or folks can just build those and bring them up. We have to have everything done through code. We're getting all of the environmental surveys had to get done. Now through the SEPA as well, which is, I think the State Environmental Protection Act, I want to say. And now if we get the vouchers as well, we'll have to do a national one. That takes a few months as well too. So getting everything together, as well as getting our capital funding all together as well. It does take a while, and if we could have gotten it up and running a year ago, I would have been happier as well too. It's something that we're working on. We have construction meetings every week that we're currently working on the next thing and the next thing, and there's just a lot of moving pieces. And I'm happy to send that timeline to folks as well too. And I'm also happy to speak. There's a lot of city council members here, or city staff. I'm happy to have a separate meeting with you all as well to address all of your concerns with the project. And I also do apologize that the fourplex thing, it sounds like that was not really communicated well with you all. So I apologize for that. But like I said, I'm happy to have a special meeting with you all too, to address each and every one of your concerns with this project.
Can we go back to the sex offender question? You just made a comment, I think. Did you say lifetime sex offenders wouldn't be allowed? You didn't say any sex offenders. I would say that we talked about that in depth in our meetings, that because of the school, and I believe Andy Conklin and I had this conversation, that there are no sex offenders. I don't think even if it was one time, no.
I apologize. There's a term. Yeah, we have never housed a sex offender. Yeah, ever.
You said lifetime sex.
I did. Yeah,
I really
apologize.
Concerned me. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Jim.
Hi.
I apologize. I've been waiting.
So back on your timeline, I was going to follow up on Councilmember Fease's question. And if this is too much in the weeds, we can take it offline to a different time too. But do you have that timeline handy again? Because I didn't memorize it quite yet.
Yeah, no, of course.
There were 3 or 4 items on there that seemed to me to be kind of biggies. And maybe you could just comment as to whether they have or have not been completed. Because the timelines I look at as far as, are we on target for success? So one of them you were referring to in the environmental assessment. And all of the different layers of that could take a while. The Federal Home Loan Bank application, I'm not intimately familiar with, but I am familiar with the program. And I know that completing those applications, I think it's outlined here about right from November to May. So about 6 months many organizations take to complete those. So did not see this project on the FHLB award list for 2019. And I don't know if that was factored into your budget or not. And then I also personally don't know what the PUD approval is. Granted, that's February, if that had been obtained yet, or if that's still. So I'm just kind of wondering, like eyeballing this timeline, if as I look at timelines, they're like strategies to how to become successful. And to answer Councilmember Nisko's question about that, are all of these done and we're just trying to get across the finish line, or are half of them done, or none of them there?
Yeah.
Where are some of those major ones at?
Yeah, so thank you. The Federal Home Loan Bank, yes, we did receive, and I am so sorry, I'm blanking on the numbers of how much. I think it was between 600 and 800,000. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number in my head right now. We did receive that from the Federal Home Loan Bank. We did put in another application though to ask for an additional 200,000. And that has not, we were supposed to get an award in December. So next month we're supposed to hear about that one, but the first one we did secure, yes. As far as I understand, the environmental reviews have been done. But again, we were moving forward without having the vouchers, which from Bremerton Housing Authority, which is a huge deal. And so if we do get vouchers, that is federal funding. And so we would have to do a NEPA, which is a national, and I don't know if it's correct, Environmental Protection Act, I think. So we would have to do that. And we're trying to do that now before we get the approval, because that can take a long time as well too. The PUD has been approved. That was something that we had to, it pretty much was the site plan and all of the package of all of that that we had to get approved through the, and I'm blanking, I don't remember who approved that. Joe, do you remember who? Some sort of inspector who we had to go to, the Civic Center. It was a public event, and they went through it, and he did approve it. And then we did have to put in an amendment because we did change to fourplexes. So we did put that in, and that has been approved as well. Right now, we are working on the last bits of our design. And so our subcontractor that I said, IndieDwell, they are working on that, and they are getting ready to be able to apply for permits. And permits with COVID have been a lot slower. We were dealing with that for our Ording project. So we're not sure how long that's going to take to get it actually permitted and whatnot. But if we are able to get permits soon and apply for permits, then IndieDwell, who's our subcontractor, they would have the tiny homes ready in March. And I don't know if that answers all of your questions, but again, happy to speak one-on-one with you. And kind of this timeline stuff, to be completely honest, is more of our development director who's with Community Frameworks. And I'm happy he is not here today, unfortunately, but he does all the ins and outs of all the processes, because it gets really complicated with our funders and with the city of making sure that everything gets done properly. And so I can definitely set up a meeting with him as well too, because he does have more of the ins and outs of that. I apologize, I don't know as much of that stuff.
No, I think that's a really good summary. I appreciate that, JC. I will, Megan was having some technical difficulties, so I'll allow the highly paid elected officials to follow up with any details about timeline that they'd like to have on that. Hopefully that helps answer your question.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Megan, I didn't answer that earlier. I couldn't understand what you're saying, but yeah, I can definitely follow up with you all, or if you want to follow up with me, however we want to make that work to address all that. And, oh, Eric, I'm sorry, you have your hand up?
I think
Or was it staying there?
No, that was earlier.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Dale, if you want to mute, you're kind of making some noise there. Sorry, hon.
Any other questions? Yeah, Andy.
Sorry to be a pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you were you'd mentioned something earlier in your discussion about utilities and the ability to cut a lot of the cost based on the utility. I don't know what you want to call it, if it all being together. Can you get into that a little bit more? Can you tell me what that means? And that may bring up another question for me.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's pretty much like the plumbing. So now all the homes, the bathrooms are closer together. So when they're doing the underground piping, and again, I'm not sure exactly how all that works. I'm not really an engineer and do that stuff, but basically they're able to have it all in one spot instead of having to pipe it out to different locations. And so that, from my understanding, that is how it made it be less expensive. But I can definitely follow up with you if you want more information on that. That one's not completely my expertise.
Yep. No, I understand. And so one of the concerns that I had prior to this meeting was that I had garnered somewhere along the way that there might be only one connection fee to the city for each one of those fourplexes, as opposed to 4 if they were all individual. Or you've got 8 connection fees instead of 30 now. Essentially, is I guess ultimately one of the questions that I have.
Yeah, and I'll have to look in our lease as to what it is, because there is a lesser amount. So it's not, I don't believe it is 30. It's, we use in like the ERU, which is the equivalent resident. I'm sorry. You guys are throwing so many different questions at me and I don't know everything, but, and I do think it is 4 equals 1. So because they are tiny homes, they're not the same as a regular household. So it was, and I could be wrong. So I don't want to, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 to 1. And Joe's popping on maybe. Joe, you going to say something about that?
No, sorry. I had to take a phone call. I had a death in my family on the East Coast.
Oh.
I'm trying to coordinate a little bit here.
I apologize. I just called you out.
Were you expecting a
Oh no, I just saw your video went on, so I thought you were getting ready to say something. But
okay.
No. But yeah, I do believe, and I'm happy to send you, Andy, the lease. Oh, sorry, my dog's going off. I'm happy to send you the lease too, if you'd like to look at that.
I do. I've got copies of the lease. I've seen it all. You know.
Okay, you're on it. Yeah.
I was just I had gathered that there was going to be some kind of a break because they were 4 units together as opposed to individual properties. And so, I mean, ultimately, I guess this is more of a question for the city council than it would be you guys. But if I'm a private developer and I come and I want to build a 4-plex, am I going to be able to use this project as a tool to be able to as a tool to be able to eliminate some of those ERUs that you're talking about? So anyway.
Yeah, and we actually got that number before we went to 4-plex, because it's actually just based off of how small the units are. But yeah, I can see that. And Andy, I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you outside too. I want to get rid of all your concerns. I know I probably won't 100%, but I'd love to have a conversation with you too.
That must be you telling me to be quiet then. Okay, I got you.
No.
JC,
Oh, Dale's muted but talking somehow. I'm not sure how that works. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey,
Oh, I'm sorry. Dale, if you want to go ahead, yeah. Did we lose you? Okay, Joe, I'm gonna.
right.
We'll see. We'll see this time.
What Dale was going to ask you was about the periodic update.
Statements kind of put me off a little bit when people start talking about, making assumptions.
I'm sorry, Dale, you're cutting out. I can't hear you. Okay, he muted himself. Okay, Joe, try one more time. Are you going to wait it out? Okay.
Are we still waiting on Dale? Or are we?
No,
good?
I think you can try. We'll see.
Hey, no, all I was wanting to just chime in on is if we could have some sort of regular updates to the council, to city as well. It would be helpful at this point. I rewind back to your timeline and other things. The city council is very motivated. We've worked very, very hard over the last several years or last couple of years to ensure that the way the city is posturing for development and other things is consistent, it's professional, it's organized. We've been really, really pushing hard on that. And at the end of the day, all I'll say is it takes both parties to work together on this. So, being blunt about it, waiting until, you're ready to make a decision and throwing it at us, that's going to cause more turmoil than it is a productive conversation. So the more you can engage us or the city manager even throughout this process, it would be just really appreciated. Because, at the end of the day, we want Shelton to be an example of how successful projects get completed in a small city.
Yeah.
and not be the blem that it has been potentially in the past. So we're motivated to making sure that the projects that could come into our town end up being successful and have a long-term sustainable future here. So just keep us engaged throughout.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time tonight, especially taking the time to communicate with us and share. So, it's definitely got some ideas in my brain, and I'll bounce them back through the city manager to you guys as well, and some of my counterparts that are on the call today. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you. And
that. Yeah.
yeah, and what would be the best? I can definitely send like monthly updates. Who do I send that to? What would be the best way to send that, I guess?
Honestly, if you get it to at least Jeff Knighton.
Okay, I can send it to Jeff.
We can hold him responsible for making sure that it gets to everybody. So
okay.
But no, he's our guy. He's the guy in charge, right? So he's ultimately the pass through for this type of information. So and I'll take it back to Dale because it looks like he's off his dial up back onto that PUD fiber.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, are you there? Okay, thank you. I was on the road and I couldn't get it. I had a dead spot. I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I'm not excluding or including anybody or everybody, but I want everybody to understand this is our project. This is a Shelton project. This has to do with our people. And I do consider our homeless that have been out there for quite a period of time part of our extended family. And that's who they are. They're part of who we are, part of who our extended family is. Whether we want to say make assumptions and assume that they're dangerous or that they have mental issues or they have drug problems or whether they have other issues out there, that's our personal views of them. They've already been screened. We know what issues they already have, and we will have programs supposedly in place there at the facility. If we don't like it, it's our issue, not one that we should impose upon the rest of the general public as a fear factor and try to scare the general public in how we approach these homeless veterans going forward. We're there to make sure that those homeless veterans have an opportunity to grow and have an opportunity to become serviceable people in our community in the future. So if we cut them off now, that's our fault, not theirs.
Thanks, Dale. April.
Yes, thank you. I want to give you a really good example of there's a 70-year-old disabled veteran that went to he's been paying $700 a month rent, which is very cheap, but his landlord just sold his house. There's no way he's going to find another place for $700 a month. So this is a perfect example that a 70-year-old disabled veteran on a fixed income is going to be homeless. So, we're going to work to find him something in the meantime, but this is exactly what the tiny homes for our homeless veterans is to help those people who they can't work anymore. They served our country. A lot of, actually, you'd be surprised about the most I've heard in our area, at least, are the ones that served in Vietnam. So they're older and they can't work anymore. So this is a big deal. So that is, I know of at least 4 that are in that kind of a realm. If they're not homeless, they are real close to it, or they're in a situation where they're couch surfing, and that to me is homeless.
Thanks. Yeah, and I mean, we really believe in this project, and we want it to be successful. We want it to be a community project. We're not trying to come into the town and create problems for you. We're trying to help solve a problem, and so we really want this to be a community-oriented, family-friendly place. And I just know it has been taking a while, and so we're trying to get to the finish line.
I would be remiss if I didn't interject a little bit here. So, Mr. Elman's comment, right? This is our project. Technically, it's not, unfortunately. Technically, these funds were, awarded to Coyote communities. They were not awarded to the city of Shelton. you know, and as such, there were sets of sideboards kind of put around the project. And my concerns, and way back in the beginning, were, you know, we're essentially we've essentially now created a scenario where we are pitting homeless folks against homeless folks in our community, and, you know, homeless veterans against all other homeless people. Homeless veterans get a house, but the rest of the homeless in Shelton don't. And I've read statistics, and I've heard the numbers, and I've, you know, from our local nonprofits that are collecting this information, the point in time counts, all these different things, you know, deep dive into the data. Whether we have enough homeless veterans or not, the bottom line is my frustration from the beginning was we're just not really cracking the egg here. We're not doing enough with this particular project to really mitigate the homelessness issue in the city of Shelton, right? And as such, you know, we now have this wonderful opportunity to work on an innovative housing project for homeless folks, and it has all these caveats attached to it. And I'm concerned deep down, you know, my heart's there, right? It's no need to sell me on the reason why we need to support veterans and why we need to support homeless folks. It's just, at the end of the day, the Housing Trust Fund has relinquished $3 million to this project. And my concern is that it's really not going to make a significant impact to our homelessness issue in the city of Shelton. Yes, it is going to potentially have strong benefit for homeless veterans in the area. I won't deny that. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be people, you know, sleeping out in front of the EDC on Coyote Street. There's still going to be people sleeping in Brewer Park. We're still going to have those nuisances that exist with chronic homelessness issues, because we have all of these caveats and because we have all of these barriers in place. I'm just struggling with the overall project. I still am today. I hope that as this continues to move forward, I hope that we have a refined outlook as to how we actually dig into this issue in the city limits and how we can actually mitigate this. And you know, we're never going to solve it, right? I've come to grips with that. You know, we're never going to completely solve this issue, but we sure as hell can make a big dent in it, right? I'm motivated to do that in that part of it. I just, you know, this is very much on the shoulders of Coyote communities to pull off. The city is a partner, but not as close as I would have liked from the beginning. So, you know, so again, I'm there. We want to make this successful, but I also want to make sure that we're not forgetting about the people that that are in our community that we need to help. So my pontificating, if you will.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's not going to solve the homeless problem that's in Shelton or in Mason County. And we never said we were going to solve the problem. We're just part of the solution. And that's the same in Olympia and the same in Pierce County where we're going to be. Because unfortunately, the homeless problem is pretty heavy, and there are a lot of folks that are experiencing homelessness, but we will be able to change the lives of 30 folks. So we're excited to be able to do that. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming here. I'm wanting to kind of do this on a monthly basis. Do you guys think that's cool? Okay. Getting 2 thumbs up. Okay. Awesome. I'll definitely have a reoccurring one, and we'll post it on our Facebook and try to get the word out there once it is. Hopefully it'll be like the same time every month. So I appreciate you all. And we do. And I apologize for the lack of communication. We're really trying to be open and transparent as much as possible. So I appreciate all these questions. And like I said, we do want to be part of the community. So yeah, I just really appreciate you all being here, and I hope you all have a nice night. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thank you, JC.
Thanks, guys. Bye.